In the vast ocean of human consciousness, there are deep currents that connect all minds across time and space. These currents, which Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, carry with them universal patterns of experience and behavior that transcend cultures, ages, and geographies. These are the archetypes, the primordial forms of human imagination that manifest in our dreams, myths, religions, and, more recently, in our contemporary cultural productions. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting in a movie theater. The lights go out, and a story begins to unfold before your eyes. Whether it's a young hobbit leaving the comfort of the Shire, a young farmer discovering his destiny as a Jedi Knight, or a young volunteer facing a cruel dystopia, something in these narratives resonates deeply within our being. It is no coincidence that certain stories, although set in completely different contexts, seem to touch the same chords in our psyche. What we will see today is how these archetypal patterns are not mere literary conventions or screenwriter tricks, but manifestations of a deep psychic reality that inhabits each of us. Through examples ranging from ancient mythologies to the most recent Hollywood productions, we will discover how archetypes shape not only our stories, but our very understanding of the world and ourselves. This journey will take us through the winding paths of the human psyche, revealing how the hero, the shadow, the mentor, the great mother, and other fundamental archetypes manifest in different cultural contexts, always maintaining their primordial essence. Understanding these patterns is not just an academic exercise. It is a key to better understanding our own personal journey and our connection to the collective human experience. Prepare yourself for an exploration that will transform your way of seeing not only the stories we consume, but also the roles we play in our own life narrative. When we enter the depths of the human psyche, we encounter a remarkable phenomenon that transcends individual experience. The collective unconscious, unlike the personal unconscious, is not individually developed but inherited. It consists of pre-existing forms, the archetypes, which can only secondarily become conscious, giving definite shape to the contents of consciousness. Let us imagine the collective unconscious as a vast underground ocean that connects all the individual wells of our minds. The waters of this ocean are not just personal memories or repressed experiences, but contain the accumulated wisdom of the human species, encoded in universal patterns of meaning and experience. Archetypes are like crystals in this ocean, primordial forms that organize our psychic experience. They are not inherited ideas, but inherited possibilities of ideas. They are like the riverbed that determines its course, even though the water flowing through it is different at every moment. Just as our body is a museum of organs, each with its long evolutionary history, our mind is organized in a similar way, not being a tabula rasa at birth. Let's take the archetype of the Great Mother as an example. This universal pattern manifests itself in countless forms across cultures. Gaia in Greek mythology, Pachamama for Andean peoples, the Virgin Mary in Christianity. In contemporary films, we see her presence in characters like Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings, a figure of wisdom and protection, or in nature personified in Avatar, which nurtures and protects, but can also be terrible in its fury. The power of archetypes lies in their ability to mobilize deep emotional and behavioral responses. When a film, book, or story touches on one of these fundamental patterns, it resonates not only with our personal experience, but with something much deeper and more universal. This is why certain narratives seem to have an almost magnetic power over us, transcending cultural and temporal barriers. It is crucial to understand that archetypes are not fixed characters or predetermined roles, but dynamic fields of experience that can manifest in countless ways. They are like empty molds that each culture and each era fills with its own specific content, while maintaining the basic structure unchanged. In contemporary culture, archetypes find expression not only in art and literature, but also in advertising, politics, and social media. The modern influencer, for example, often incorporates aspects of the sage or trickster archetype, while corporate brands often evoke archetypes of the protector or creator to establish emotional connections with their consumers. Understanding the nature of archetypes allows us to recognize these patterns in action in our own lives and in the society around us. This knowledge not only enriches our appreciation of cultural narratives, but also offers us tools to better understand our own motivations and behaviors. In the vast tapestry of archetypes, no pattern is as predominant or universally recognizable as that of the hero. This fundamental archetype represents not only the protagonist of countless narratives, but embodies the very process of consciousness development and the quest for individuation that characterizes the human journey. The hero's journey follows a recognizable pattern that Joseph Campbell, following in Jung's footsteps, identified as the monomyth. We observe this pattern from ancient epics to contemporary blockbusters: Frodo Baggins leaving the Shire, Luke Skywalker abandoning Tatooine, or Tony Stark transforming his captivity experience into a mission of redemption. All essentially follow the same archetypal path. What makes this pattern so powerful is its resonance with our own psychological journey of development. The call to adventure represents the moment when consciousness is summoned to expand beyond its known limits. The initial refusal of the call mirrors our own resistance to change and growth. The encounter with the mentor reflects our need for guidance when facing the unknown. In modern pop culture, we see this pattern repeating constantly, but with variations that reflect contemporary concerns. Neo in The Matrix represents the hero who must awaken to a deeper reality, questioning the fundamental nature of his existence. Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games embodies the hero who must fight not only for her survival, but for the transformation of a corrupt social system. What makes these stories so captivating is not just their familiar structure, but how they resonate with our own experience of psychological development. Each challenge the hero faces represents an aspect of our own struggle for individuation, the process of truly becoming oneself. The hero's central ordeal, often involving a symbolic death and rebirth, mirrors the psychological process of profound transformation. When Bruce Wayne emerges from the pit in The Dark Knight Rises, his physical journey mirrors a fundamental psychological transformation, the integration of the shadow and the rebirth of the self. What makes the hero archetype particularly relevant to our time is its emphasis on individual transformation as a catalyst for collective change. In a world facing unprecedented challenges, the hero's journey reminds us that personal and collective transformation are intrinsically linked. It is important to note that the modern hero is rarely the lone warrior of old. Contemporary narratives often emphasize the importance of community and collaboration. The Avengers, the Fellowship of the Ring, or the Resistance in Star Wars all exemplify how modern heroism often emerges from the union of different forces and abilities. This archetypal pattern continues to evolve, incorporating new understandings and values. The contemporary hero must often learn not just to conquer, but to heal. Not just to win, but to transform. Not just to triumph individually, but to elevate an entire community. The shadow archetype represents one of the deepest and most challenging aspects of the human psyche. It is no coincidence that in great narratives, the most memorable antagonists are those who embody not just an external threat, but an obscure reflection of the hero himself. The shadow represents everything we deny in ourselves, the repressed, rejected, and feared aspects of our personality. In contemporary narratives, we find striking examples of this archetype. Darth Vader is not just a villain. He represents the dark potential that exists in each of us when we succumb to fear and the desire for power. His black mask is a powerful symbol of the persona we construct to hide our true nature, both from others and from ourselves. The Joker, especially in Heath Ledger's interpretation in The Dark Knight, personifies the chaos and unpredictability we so fear. He represents the dark side of the order that Batman tries to maintain, a constant reminder that the line between sanity and madness, order and chaos, is thinner than we would like to admit. In The Lord of the Rings, Gollum serves as a physical manifestation of the corruption that power can exert on the psyche. His transformation from Sméagol to Gollum illustrates how the denial and repression of dark aspects can lead to the fragmentation of personality. His internal struggle, manifested in dialogues with himself, mirrors our own battle with impulses and desires we prefer not to acknowledge. The shadow also manifests collectively in our cultural narratives. Series like Game of Thrones explore how entire societies can be consumed by their dark aspects when they deny or project their own flaws onto others. The White Walkers can be seen as a manifestation of the collective shadow, a force that threatens not only life, but memory and consciousness itself. Working with the shadow, both individually and collectively, does not involve its elimination, a psychological impossibility, but its conscious integration. The most powerful stories are those in which the hero learns not to destroy his shadow, but to recognize and integrate it consciously. In Black Panther, T'Challa must confront not only Killmonger as an external antagonist, but also the shadows of Wakanda's history and his own doubts about the kind of king he should be. His journey illustrates how confronting the shadow can lead to positive transformation when approached with consciousness and courage. Modern technology has created new manifestations of the shadow in our narratives. In Black Mirror, we see how our deepest fears about technology and society take shape. Each episode explores a different aspect of our collective shadow, projected through the prism of technological advancement. Working with the shadow is particularly relevant in our era of social and political polarization. The tendency to project all evils onto a demonized other, be it political, social, or cultural, represents a failure to recognize and integrate our own dark aspects. Understanding the shadow archetype helps us recognize that evil is rarely as simple as it seems at first glance. The best stories, like the best psychological analyses, show us that integrating the shadow is a necessary step on the path to psychic wholeness. The archetypes of the Great Mother and the Sage represent fundamental forces of nurturing and guidance in our psychic journey. These archetypes are particularly significant in our time, where we desperately seek reconnection with ancestral wisdom and the sustaining principles of life. The Great Mother manifests in her fundamental duality, nurturing and devouring, creator and destroyer. In contemporary culture, we see this duality expressed in various ways. In Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen embodies both the nurturing aspect, mother of dragons, liberator of slaves, and the terrible aspect, capable of reducing cities to ashes. This duality does not represent a contradiction, but the complete nature of the maternal archetype. In the series Stranger Things, Joyce Byers represents the protective aspect of the Great Mother, her fierce determination to protect her son, transcending the barriers between dimensions. In contrast, the Upside Down can be seen as a manifestation of the devouring aspect of the maternal. a dark and distorted womb that threatens to swallow the known world. The sage archetype, in turn, appears as a guide through the unknown. Gandalf, Dumbledore, Morpheus all represent aspects of this eternal archetype. However, the modern sage often appears in less conventional forms. In The Matrix, the Oracle subverts expectations by appearing as an ordinary lady baking cookies, reminding us that wisdom doesn't always come in grandiose packages. At the intersection of these archetypes, we find figures like the Elder in Moana, who combines the wisdom of the sage with the nurturing aspect of the Great Mother. She guides not through direct instructions, but by helping Moana discover her own inner truth, a modern manifestation of the initiatory function of these archetypes. In our era of ecological crisis, the Great Mother archetype resurfaces with particular urgency in the form of Gaia, the Earth as a living organism. Films like Avatar and nature documentaries not only portray the Earth as a source of life, but also as a force that can respond destructively when disrespected. The contemporary sage often appears as a scientist or technological mentor, reflecting our search for guidance in an increasingly complex world. Tony Stark in Iron Man evolves from a weapons maker to a figure of technological wisdom, demonstrating how archetypes adapt to the needs of each era. These archetypes also manifest in contemporary social movements. The growing interest in indigenous wisdom, ancestral practices, and traditional knowledge represents a collective search for reconnection with aspects of the Great Mother and the Sage that our technological society has neglected. In the digital age, we see new manifestations of these archetypes. Artificial intelligences, like virtual assistants, can be seen as technological attempts to recreate aspects of the sage, while social networks can function as digital wombs, nurturing or devouring, depending on how we use them. The conscious integration of these archetypes into our individual and collective psyche is crucial for our development. They remind us that growth requires both nurturing and guidance, both support and challenge, both love and wisdom. We have come to the end of this fascinating journey through archetypes and the collective unconscious. From the hero who inspires us to greatness, to the shadow that challenges us to face our fears, through the Great Mother who nurtures our soul, and the sage who illuminates our path, each archetype offers us a unique key to unlock the mysteries of our psyche. But our exploration need not end here. Would you like to delve deeper into each of these archetypes? Imagine a video dedicated entirely to the hero archetype, unraveling how it manifests in your daily life. Or perhaps an episode focused on the shadow, helping you recognize and integrate your denied aspects. And how about an in-depth analysis of the Great Mother in our modern culture, or the role of the sage in times of uncertainty? What do you think of this idea? Your comments and feedback are crucial in shaping future content for this channel. Are you interested in exploring each archetype individually? Is there a specific archetype that sparks your curiosity? If this journey through the realms of the collective unconscious resonated with you, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you not only ensure that you won't miss any future content, but you also join a community of people equally fascinated by the mysteries of the human psyche. And speaking of community, we'd love to hear your reflections. How do archetypes manifest in your life? Which contemporary stories or characters do you think well represent these universal patterns? Share your ideas in the comments below. Your unique perspective can illuminate aspects we haven't addressed and enrich our collective understanding. Remember, each time you recognize an archetype in action, whether in a movie, in a book, or in your own life, you take a step towards a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. This journey of self-discovery is ongoing, and we're here to explore it together. So, what do you think? Are you ready to continue this journey through the archetypal realms of the human psyche? Subscribe, comment, and let's embark together on this fascinating exploration of the collective unconscious. Until the next video, where we'll continue to unravel the mysteries that make us human.